Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to H. 596 as the new ranking member on the Committee on Education and the Workforce. I know that protecting access to affordable health care for America's workers and families is a high priority. And despite scare tactics and misinformation, the bottom line is that the Affordable Care Act is working. Perhaps those who want to repeal the Affordable Care Act have a short memory. It is important to remember why the Affordable Care Act was passed in the first place. Before the ACA, the employer-provided coverage was shrinking. More and more employers were just dropping coverage altogether. And there were months in 2008 and 2009 when 14,000 people a day were losing their health insurance because employers were not providing it and because it was above their ability to pay. Now, from 1999 to 2010, the cost of premiums for employer-provided health insurance increased by 138%, while workers' earnings only went up around 40%. And those who were employed were often locked into their employment for fear of losing their health care insurance because even though they wanted to retire, they couldn't get insurance somewhere else. And so they were stuck in their job. Every American family with insurance had to pay a hidden tax of about $1,000 per family for the cost of paying for those without insurance, who would go to the hospital and not pay, so when they went to the hospital, they'd have to pay a little extra. That little extra was about $1,000 per year for every family with insurance. And this was the reality that American workers and their families faced before the passage of the Affordable Care Act, and we should not go backwards. Today, thanks to the ACA, workers are enjoying the peace of mind that they have options. If the employer-provided coverage is not available, they can enter the marketplace. If it is available, they have the security of new consumer protections, such as a requirement that at least 80% of the premiums be spent on actual health care, not corporate jets and CEO bonuses. And we ended insurance practices such as caps on payments. They would only pay so much overall, and then you're on your own, or so much for your lifetime, then you're on your own, and cancellations, where they could just arbitrarily cancel your premium after you've paid year after year after year. When you get sick, well, they check and they just want to cancel your premium. Those abuses can no longer take place. Employers will also suffer under a repeal. In 2014, premiums for employer-provided health care grew at the lowest rate in 15 years. If the ACA is repealed, many employers could again be charged health-related premiums, so if they have a few sick employees, they'll see their premiums skyrocket. The vast majority of large employers who provide health insurance to their employees may suffer an increase in premiums due to the return of the hidden tax, the cost shifting of uncompensated care. And when employees leave a job, they're on their own to get insurance if they can, because there was a prohibition. They could deny people with pre-existing conditions. So if you have a pre-existing condition and leave your job, then who knows what's going to happen. In addition, small employers would suffer, since all small group market reforms, including rating reforms, would disappear. Small employers used to pay 18% more in premiums than large businesses. On average, ACA leveled the playing field, so now they're paying the rates like everybody else. If you repeal the Affordable Care Act, they're up another 18% where it was before. Now, we've heard all the statistics. Over 3 million uninsured young adults have access to health insurance through their parents' policies. 8 million senior citizens in the so-called Medicare donut hole have been getting relief and have saved billions. 12 million more Americans have health insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. These numbers represent real people, and these real people would lose access to their benefits if the Affordable Care Act is repealed. Now, those trying to repeal the law should be honest to seniors about what would happen to their free preventive care in the absence of the Affordable Care Act. They should explain to young adults that repealing the law would kick them off their parents' policies. They'd have to explain to millions of Americans who only have insurance because of the Affordable Care Act, many for the first time in their lives, why they'll now have to go without coverage. And while the Republican majority continues to talk about repeal, we should be talking about the progress we've already made and how we can continue to move in the right direction. So when the Republicans talk about replacement of legislation, that's important to note that there's no meaningful replacement proposal on the table. And delaying the effective date of this repeal for 180 days does not make a meaningful replacement any more plausible or likely. This is the 56th attempt to repeal or undermine the Affordable Care Act. This is a distraction, and I hope the Republican majority will refocus efforts on real policy solutions for the American people, the American families and workers. Mr. Speaker, I reserve the ballot.